Hi there. I just wanted to give a quick update to our Cornerstone clients out there because it's something that I've been talking in different conversations with a lot of people, and I know there's a lot of concern about what's happening in the market, some of the performance numbers that you might be seeing. So, real quickly, as we start the new quarter, I wanted to just get ahead of that and explain to you what's going on. First of all, obviously 2022 was a very bad year. We saw, for the first time in my entire career, in fact, my entire lifetime, stocks and bonds went down together. So things that used to provide a little bit more protection when we were on sell signals literally did not help, to the point of we spent a lot of times in money market. And when we started the year, even just a year ago, money market rates were still essentially around zero. Now, thankfully, they've climbed up to 4.5% or so. So now when we're on a sell signal, we do get those benefits. But overall, whether it was our cornerstone models or the rest of our models, we did struggle. We are very happy, though, that despite this unprecedented event, that all of our models remained within their risk parameters. In other words, if you told us you had a 10% risk tolerance, we kept those portfolios within that 10% risk tolerance. We did not exceed the loss levels in those accounts. So that's really important for us, is if your risk questionnaire came back with a certain percentage, we stuck to that even despite an unprecedented year. Secondly, and I think most importantly, is if you look at 2022's performance, smaller and mid-sized companies struggled a lot more than the large cap companies, which makes sense because the fear was, with the Fed tightening interest rates, inflation taking control, that the economy is going to struggle, which meant those smaller companies were also going to struggle. So with that understanding, we tried to eliminate as much small cap exposure as we could, and we did for the most part. But those middle-sized companies still got hurt more than large cap companies. And that's important to understand. When you look at the main priority of the cornerstone models is to avoid things that God finds questionable. And this is where we run into sometimes struggling a little bit compared to a more secular based investment strategy. For instance, let's look at the largest companies in the S&P 500 index. You're talking Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Apple. And you could include Netflix and Facebook in there, but let's specifically look at Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. One of the mandates for Cornerstone is to avoid things that God finds objectionable. And I think most of us would agree that pornography does damage to our society, whether it's looking at what happens with marriage, whether it looks at what happens to the people who are in those different pornographic videos and content and websites and things like that. Very objectionable. And I don't think that's a Christian thing. I think that's a societal thing that we should care more about. Our fund partners have challenged Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Apple, Netflix to get rid of all pornographic content, including hosting the websites that provide that. If you look at the web hosting services, Amazon and Microsoft dominate. You add in Google there and what they have with YouTube and some of the things that they control there, and it is, you literally could see a situation where if they actually stood up to these pornographic providers, they could wipe it out. But they have refused to do that. They will not refuse service to those companies. From a Cornerstone perspective, that means that we cannot invest in them. And that means at times where those companies are holding up better because they have a bigger economic moat, if you will, maybe Cornerstone's going to lag a little bit. But to us, that's okay. Third, and I think this is also important to understand, is we have to remember, what is the purpose of our money? Yes, we would love to make as much money as possible, and over the long term, following a biblically responsible approach has shown that it tends to outperform, but just barely. There are going to be times where you underperform. And when we're talking underperformance, we're talking maybe 1 or 2% versus a secular strategy. But let's think again, bigger picture. Do you really want to profit off of companies who refuse to say no to pornography? Do you really want to profit off companies who are using your investment dollars to try to promote abortion and LGBTQ lifestyles like a lot of the mega cap companies are? Of course not. I think most Christians understand that that is objectionable and it's something we shouldn't do. So at times, like we've seen over the last 12 to 14 months, we're okay as Christians underperforming by just a little bit. And I'm talking about 1 or 2%. It's not a lot. Because we know that the better rewards come to those who are following biblical wisdom with their finances. And we truly believe that that's what's happening with the Cornerstone portfolios. Fourth, and finally, related to that is I understand the draw of some of these money market and CD rates that you're getting out there. It's nice to be able to lock in what people call a guaranteed rate of return. Now, one thing I always challenge people on, whether they're in Cornerstone models or something else, is what happens when we finally get to the point where stocks and bonds are extremely attractive and SEM's quantitative systems are ready to pour money in. If you've taken money out of the models and parked it somewhere else, you're going to miss out on some very sizable potential returns. Now, we've already taken a lot of money off the table. And again, like I said in the first point, we've kept the risks down to a manageable level. We've kept everybody's losses within the risk parameters that they set out, which means we do have money sitting in money market and short-term bonds ready to deploy when the models say it's necessary. But I think most importantly is we want to continue investing with companies who are, one, trying to avoid those things that God says are objectionable, but more importantly, those who are embracing companies that are doing good. We don't want to pull money out just because we've seen losses, because we know the market goes in cycles. We're already down for about 14 months, and we know that a bear market doesn't last too much longer on a calendar basis, and we're ready to act. We're ready to do that because on the one hand, we want to continue investing in things that God loves, but also we want to be good stewards of our money. And quite frankly, parking money aside in just something that's guaranteed has not ever been a very wise investment. Now, I know there's lots of people out there that maybe it is a wise investment. Maybe you're just to the point where, hey, if I can lock in 2 or 3% returns for the rest of my life, I'm fine. But that's not most of you. Most of you will need higher returns than that. And that's what we're trying to do, whether it's with our secular models or most importantly with our Cornerstone models, is we're trying to get to the point where your returns are higher than you would get in a CD or a money market over a full market cycle. But also, we're trying to avoid things that God would object to. We're trying to embrace things that God would love. And then we're engaging with companies in our community to try to get them to realize the good that can be had with the investment dollars that we're giving them. So we truly appreciate the patience you've had and the trust you've had with the Cornerstone models. We know from studying history and market cycles that things will get better, but most importantly, we know that God favors those who choose to follow him, and we are confident that that's what's going to happen going forward. Most importantly, if you're wondering, do your investments align with your objectives? Really easy to figure out. Go to risk.semwealth.com, take our risk questionnaire. That's going to automatically generate a portfolio review, and we will look at that. We'll talk to your advisor, and we'll see if there is a better investment alternative out there for you. Thanks again for the trust that you've placed in SEM and especially the Cornerstone models.